Welcome to the Massage Tools Podcast, your home for cool interviews and reviews. Carl, will you just take a few moments, tell us about yourself, how long you've been in the industry, maybe your schooling?
Yeah. Okay. So I graduated in the previous millennium, back in 1997, from New Life Institute, which has been through 3 moves and 3 name changes since then. And at the time, we were one of 2 schools in the entire country that taught a full 120-hour neuromuscular therapy program.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. Janet Travell and Simons, they did it, and then Judy Delaney was taken over as far as teaching in schools massage therapy. So our founders worked with Judy Delaney, and that's where they kind of got the idea from starting a school. So I've been teaching. I started right after I graduated, and I've been teaching ever since, anatomy, technique classes, and MT, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
And so that's my primary thing is pain relief and, just nuts and bolts.
Excellent. And then so in addition to being an instructor, you have a private practice, and then you also do some contract work with local university, Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech.
We're in the Pride today.
Hey, all right. College Pride. And a chair massage business as well.
Excellent.
I wrote the course for that because one didn't really exist outside of the Palmer technique at the time. And the Palmer technique he started the whole thing. I mean, we owe so much to David Palmer. His approach is a little bit more one size fits all, relaxy, and I wanted to do an NMT style chair, so out of that grew the course. So now we have a seated chair course as well.
Okay, so if you had to describe neuromuscular therapy, NMT, to maybe a non-massage person, whether another manual therapist or a potential client, what's kind of the sales pitch or elevator pitch for neuromuscular therapy?
No shame on the profession, but when people ask me what I do, I almost never use the word massage.
Okay.
Because whatever they think massage is stuck to it forever. You can't change their mind,
Correct, yeah.
And so whatever they think massage is probably not what I do. So I say I'm a neuromuscular therapist, which then begs the question, what's that? So I've got a couple different short and sweet answers, and the short and sweetest one is probably it focuses on pain relief and postural correction.
Okay.
Or if they need a range, well, it's somewhere between traditional massage and physical therapy.
Okay.
Or if they really want to know, then I get more into about it's really treating pain at the source as much as you can find it, as opposed to just rubbing where they feel the pain.
Okay. Now, again, take someone who's got maybe a little bit of the massage vernacular. Well, isn't that trigger point work? And they might come at it from that. So I guess what might separate the two, just for clarity's sake, for someone who might be interested in that style of training.
Yeah, I teach some CEUs in neuromuscular therapy, and I call it demystifying neuromuscular therapy because the technique itself is really, really simple. And one of the things that we get into in the what is NMT part of it is trigger point therapy. Yes and yes, maybe no, because really primarily ischemia or lack of blood flow is the main issue with what we tend to do, and trigger points grow out of ischemia. So even in the Judy Delaney books, number 1 is ischemia, number 2 is trigger points. So I find that if you're really treating the overall structure, compensation patterns, looking for where the problem is that's sending pain to this area that they're feeling it, sometimes if you deal with that, the trigger points will actually just kind of disappear on their own. It's more important to treat the ischemia, in my opinion, than the trigger point itself.
Okay. Cool. Disclaimer, I have taken 2 of Carl's neuromuscular therapy classes. If you're in the Atlanta area, take them.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's hundreds of questions that, having been an instructor myself, my students are always like, oh, okay, well, I'm out of school, what should I do now? So what's one piece of advice you wish you could have given to yourself when you got out of school? Maybe right towards the end of graduation, or even maybe that first year, like, Carl, go back in time, get in your time machine, run out crazy. Carl, you gotta take this class. You gotta do this,
We gotta get 100,000 gigawatts of power.
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably just study more, or just keep looking. I think being in the Atlanta area and being in one of the only schools that taught in a way of thinking, a higher level of therapy. I didn't really have too many mentors to turn to, and partly because I wasn't looking far enough. And I spent a lot of years thinking I knew something. And then about 5-6 years ago, when I really started looking around, I was like, wow, I don't know anything.
Can you maybe provide an example of that? Or
yeah, sure. It's easy to get very, very tied into your specialty in the way that the prism that you've been given to see the body with. You can get expert in that one prism, but then when you look at other perspectives on how things are affecting that body, you gain a whole different way of thinking about it, turning the model around in your mind. Probably the most far zigzag model would be PERT, primal reflex release technique, which is the thing that I'm probably most jazzed about these days in my practice. And when I found that, I felt like I'd spent 18 years of my career working in the wrong direction, working from the wrong end.
Okay.
So, for example, neuromuscular therapy, you figure out what the pain is, you figure out maybe what's causing that pain, but then you got to treat over here, and you find the muscle that's tight and you smush it and hope it makes the right decision to improve. And therefore, if this side releases, then the other side of the muscle can maybe wake up, and then you can restore balance to the joint. Therefore, that might change the neurology, and that may eventually register in the brain, and then it'll hold. With PERT, you find the muscle that's overactive, and its opposite muscle is usually inhibited. You wake this muscle up, and neurologically, it just does the balance. So instead of smushing a muscle that's sore, you treat the one that's not sore, and then squibbity squabbity doo.
That is the clinical term, by the way, squibbity squabbity doo.
We get in some boop bop bop bops later. It's a little technical. If we have time, we'll get there. But it's just more complete, and it's from the inside out. And then if there's anything left behind, like adhesions or things that I can use my good old NMT and ART and PYT and all that good stuff, then we can take it from there.
I guess a challenging question would be, would you have been ready for the primal reflex right out of school, or did you kind of need to go on your path a bit to be able to comprehend it as fully as you do?
That's a really, really, really good question. I think he's good, right? You should tune in to the next cast. This guy's good. It's funny because I don't think I would have been ready. Once I got over the idea that I knew something, and I went back to my original mentor, Dr. Bruce Costello, and saw what he was doing with corrective exercise and the way that he was integrating some neural stuff. It started to really get the wheels turning. And then I went to the James Waslowski courses, and oh my gosh, opened up a whole new ball of wax. Of course, getting into the anatomy trains and all that good stuff. So having all that good orthopedic way of thinking, and then having PERT as a tool to treat those same ideas, but just treat them more quickly, it was like, gas on the fire at that point. Had I gotten it right out of school, I may not have really fully appreciated it, but one of my really, really sharp students took it within a year of graduating, and evidently he's, doing really well with it and off to the races, and it makes sense to him. So, I kind of wish I could be in his shoes in some ways.
So one of the words I want to pull out of that is you mentioned mentor. Mm-hmm. So how did you come across that mentor? Was he an instructor for your schooling, or someone you sought out? Or
he's one of the original founders.
Okay.
So he developed the whole curriculum. He and his wife put everything together, and then after they sold the school, he was doing his own continuing ed stuff, and I think I just volunteered to help him out with one. And at first I was thinking, it's going to be kind of the same stuff we went through in school, a little therapy, a little rehab, a little this and that, the other. But seeing what he'd done with that, and he's got even new stuff I haven't even seen yet. I don't even know where he's gone, but it's a lot more neuro. I see a lot of techniques these days heading more towards the neurology side, and not just the smash a muscle with a stick and hope it makes the right decision approach.
Yeah. I feel like we're definitely the manual therapy, massage therapy industries there. I feel like neuro, all the CEUs are popping up now talking about. That's one of the up and coming topics.
Yeah, for sure.
I guess looking forward, like what we kind of talked about PERT, Even though schooling was neuromuscular therapy, like what's kind of been one of your favorite or maybe most impactful continuing educations?
Non-massage or just massage in general?
We'll stick with in the I guess what we might consider the main massage.
I mean, really, those three I mentioned in order. You know, Dr. Bruce, I think, really opened up how much I still had to learn, and it made me realize, you know, I've got stacks of books, I don't even know what's in them yet. And then, you know, James Waslawski, he's so on top of everything, and it's funny because I saw one of his classes, and half of what he said, no, y'all are going to be mad by this because, you know, I'm going to go against what you've traditionally been taught. And about half of what he said along those lines, I was like, yes, thank you. See, someone else gets it, right? I'm not the only one who says that.
Right.
And then the other half of things that he said, it was really like, really? Huh. Hey, okay, I didn't know that. I'm with you. Let's look into it.
Okay.
You know, and then that kept me digging. And then when I found PERT, just almost entirely by chance. So those three, I mean, they really kind of boom, 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 set me up for just a totally different way of practicing.
Awesome. Great. How about anything in the, like we might not consider a traditional massage CEU? Is there anything that you like that maybe added more knowledge to your, pun intended, body of knowledge? Or
Hey.
but like I said, it may have like increased your knowledge in anatomy, or maybe it could even be just ways to interact with clients or people in general, or any education that jumps out at you.
I was surprised at how much I learned from the personal trainer courses that I took. I got the NSAM certification, and they're super nerdy. I loved it. You know, they have a 10-page chapter and 3 pages of references.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I find it very interesting that in their 5-step model, the first step is fascial balance.
Okay.
And not all massage therapists get training in fascial balance.
Right.
You know, in Georgia, you know, if you're just doing the minimum, you might not get any training in the concept of fascial balance. And then here, personal trainers are. You know, I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
And then to do their corrective exercise, it was kind of a repeat of what I did in school, but it was a little bit more nerdy and glorious in that way. So I was surprised how much I learned. It was a really good integration.
Okay.
And gave me different language to use to explain some of the patterns of why we have pain patterns and imbalances in the muscles. So it was surprisingly good.
Yeah. I've also taken the corrective exercise. It's worth checking out at least. So
Yeah, for sure.
Gosh, there's so many questions we could go on with this. What's kind of your favorite part of the massage practice or the industry, or, you know, it could be even you know, some cool story that you have of like with a client, just night and day differences. It's an open-ended question because
Yeah.
you know.
I'll go more broad
Okay.
than a specific case study thing. The current family that runs our school, they were asking me one time, like, what do therapists get motivated by? Because the chains that were hiring people kept losing folks, and they were trying to figure out what's their currency. Why can't we keep them? We give them bonuses, we give them this, we give them flexibility, but they won't stay. I said, what do most people want when they come into this profession? And I said, freedom! Agree?
Yeah. More money or freedom?
Freedom. The ability to like have control over your schedule, to, you know, go out of town for a week and work at a swim tournament, to be able to set your hours, weird times if you want, you know, the freedom. That's got to be one of the best parts. And big picture, our profession is so broad. Oh my gosh. I mean, there's 15 things that you can specialize in. You know, we talked about that kind of narrow focus. You can get super deep on so many different directions. You know, you got fascial, you've got craniosacral, you've got neural, you've got, you know, exercise things, you've got functional movement training, you've got assessments you can do. I mean, yikes. There's so many ways that you can go, and so many of these deeper paths, you can do corrections and help people with situations that doctors and some physical therapists have never even heard of, which is pretty awesome. That, you know, you can accomplish some things that people have been looking for solutions for years, and sometimes in a session or two, bobbity boom, I mean, they're good to go. you know, and it's weird. You're punching above your weight like that. But I do have to remind people that I did go to school for a whole year.
That's a whole year. I mean, yeah.
You know, when I go to a class where I'm kind of thrown in with athletic trainers and physical therapists and everything, they go, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm a massage therapist, but I have a library card."
Yeah, I had a similar experience with a friend that had recently graduated from physical therapy school. And we're at a social gathering, and of course, you know, you've got friends from school. She's there with a group of her physical therapy friends, and we started talking. Pelvic floor came up in conversation.
Like it does.
They're all pelvic floor specialists.
I mean,
so.
I'm not trying to be PC or anything. Am I right? Get it? Pubococcygeal? Shut up, Carl.
But we come up in conversation, and I started asking some like breathing pattern questions. And like, "Oh, are you pelvic floor PT as well?" I'm like, "No, I'm just a massage therapist." And like, I put myself down a little bit, and you know, props to my friend. She jumps in, she's like, "He's more than just a massage therapist." And like, she kind of did like a sales pitch for me, but I was just happy to engage in conversation and whatnot. So I feel sometimes people might put a little too much credence in the piece of paper on the wall, and like, well, what does the individual have to offer? And that's what's cool, because I've run into athletic trainers that know this weird system that I've never seen, but it's like it's hands-on work that I would love to learn, that assessment set, or and it's definitely within our scope and things like that. So yeah, the paper on the wall is always a tricky thing, but I just tell people, like, be open-minded to the conversation, or ignore the job title, and what is this person offering from a conversational standpoint, or to be really selfish, like, what can I learn from this person?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a Spanish proverb, like, everybody knows something that you don't know, or there's, well, I probably misquoted it, and I'll put that in with the right.
Well, that's what's been driving my quest, really, because, you know, my NMT, going deep down in the hole, my NMT instructor was brand spanking new, didn't really know how to really teach it. It was just like, here's the muscle, and then we rub here at the end. I mean, no integration, no how this affects that, no 3D chess of how to do treatment. So I'd self-taught a lot of that stuff, and every so often I'd come across some little nugget of really cool information of like, hey, these people that have had all these problems and they've looked at all these things, it's just a little boop, and then it all unlocks it. And it made me realize, for every little gem that I have where people have been looking for answers, and I go, oh, that's just your blah-bitty blue. Somebody somewhere has that answer for probably every question I've got. Somebody somewhere has that gem. So that's been my quest, is to go like collect all the nuggets and all the jewels. So, you know, I'll just have this vast array of great ways to help people.
Carl Christie, Tomb Raider.
That's
Got it, smart. That's it. Right, cool. Yeah.
Right.
You know, I guess one of the big questions I kind of like to pick brains about is what would you like to see, and it could be your personal, but I guess the bigger one is, how would you like to see the massage industry, not necessarily transform, but what path would you like to see it take in maybe the next 5 or 10 years?
You know, there's this has been kind of coming on for a long time. I don't think it's a very clear path about how to go about doing this, but I really do believe in there being tiers. And I'm not trying to put down relaxation therapy. There's so much need for relaxation therapy, and some people, that's all they want to do, and they very invest in like the calm place and the soft music and everything, and that's their jam, and they're amazing at it, and I don't want to take away from that, because that's a very important part of our profession. But there's people like us, 90% of the people I treat, they're fully clothed. I'm not doing traditional massage. The word doesn't even make sense compared to how I treat people. So it sort of helps people. I think there should be a different tier as to like advanced pain management massage, or, you know, medical massage is kind of a trademark term, but something to delineate. And I remember years ago at a convention where they were talking about advanced certification, and they go, yeah, you're gonna prove that you've got such number of hours and take the old test again. How does that prove that you're advanced if you haven't really? But then what do you qualify to be advanced? Is it NMT? Is it Dalton? Is it Waslowski? Is it
Myers or any of the
Myers
big names? Yeah.
Whitney Lowe. I mean, there's so many ways that you could go and become advanced. PERT, hey, check it out. But then, how do you pick the one that makes that you're an advanced practitioner? So it's really, I think, more of like a different level, a recognition of a separate license, or just a separate. So if you're advertising, you can say, hey, I'm this type of massage, because if you're looking for, spa weekend, I'm not your guy.
Right.
And, I'm just going to disappoint you, because that's not what I do.
Yeah. I guess to kind of piggyback on that, just for folks that might be newer in the industry or kind of really honing in on their marketing, like, has there been anything that's been really helpful for you to kind of say, not really the relaxation stuff, I am more the traditional, or not traditional, I guess more like a therapeutic, if you wanted to use that term. You mentioned earlier, like, sometimes you introduce as a neuromuscular therapist, but are there any other things that have helped you marketing, advertising, or sales pitch wise to be like, yeah, I do therapeutic, or I do, well, it's not a spa, there's no Enya, there's no candles.
Right. No, I'm pretty underground. I'm mostly word of mouth. And my marketing technique for most of my career has been, if I'm thirsty, I go outside and hope it rains. I have to be honest.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
a horrible marketer.
Okay.
So it's mostly just be as good as you can be at what you do. And if you get results, then people are going to advertise for you. And that's one of the things with PERT that it kicked up even more, because they don't even know what I do, but they feel better.
Okay.
And so they tell all their friends, hey, did the weirdest thing. My neck wouldn't turn. He went bop, bop, and then it did. And then, so people come to me not even having any idea what I'm going to do, which is pretty weird. Their friends said, I can't explain what it is. Just go see him. Okay, so they've got a clean slate, so they don't have any expectations. So I'm not really fighting expectations like I did when I worked in a chiropractic office, where they clearly needed psoas work for their back pain they'd had 5 years, and they'd only had people hammering in the back with the elbow, and it's like, no, we got to start you face up. And I'd always have to like do that tug of war with them, because they had such a strong expectation of what my job was. And I have to, but now that I'm in private practice and people just come to me word of mouth, I don't have that struggle anymore. I just, I do what I want. Freedom.
Did it was it off-putting the first few times someone's like come in and be like, you're the expert, do whatever you want. You're like,
Hi.
wait, no, you said the E word, don't use that. I'm not a
Mr. Christie is my father. Takes me back to Fletch, as far as you know. But as my wife likes to say, bigger dummies than you have done X, Y, Z. There's plenty of folks out there that aren't with a library card that are calling themselves experts. So I think that's respect for what we do, and I feel that if you're not willing to say that you're an idiot a good amount of the time and that you're probably vastly ignorant, then I don't really trust you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just I share that feeling of like expert. I mean, I do what I can.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Those are all the big questions I have for you. So thank you.
On your list, you got one more about what I would tell students to do after school.
Oh yeah.
Study your anatomy.
Yeah.
Study your anatomy. It is the core of everything you're gonna do in the future. Study your anatomy.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that every class I've taken was so much easier to interpret, because I cheated. I taught anatomy for 17 years. So
that's cheating.
But the best way to learn is to teach,
yes.
right? So
yeah,
now I'm
absolutely.
teaching PERT because I want to know it even better. And when you have to turn something over in your mind enough to teach it, you understand it in a much different and deeper way. So anything you can do, apps, practice, when you're working on something, think about actions, attachments, think about how they interact with other things, read all the books on it that you can get, the anatomy trained stuff. You get those super anatomy nerds, it's just so glorious. Yes, anatomy nerds, my people. So yeah, the thing that has allowed me to punch above my weight is my knowledge of anatomy. because going out to the PERT classes, I was one of maybe 2 massage therapists. Everyone else is a chiro, physical therapist, athletic trainer, 2 years or more of training. And when the instructor, John Iams, would ask some really deep anatomy question, he'd say, I bet you never heard of this tiny muscle that's an antagonist to this, that, and the other. And I was like, I know that one. And he's like, really? And I, and then he'd say, how about this? There's a muscle that goes from the hyoid to the shoulder, and I'm sure most people aren't working on it or evaluating. Has anyone ever worked anything like that? You mean the amohyoid? And he's like, how do you, okay, let's,
Yeah.
So I'd not only heard of, but worked on muscles that most of the other practitioners had never even thought about, like longus coli and amohyoid and all these other things. So that extra piece of anatomy allowed me to hold my own in a room full of people that far outranked me. And it was just anatomy. It wasn't my training as much as just knowing where I am and what I'm doing, what the goal is.
Study your anatomy, kids.
Study your anatomy, kids. You don't even have to stay in school. Just do it on your own time.
Mom, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
I mean, after you get out of school, maybe, that's when the real learning begins, is when you graduate, just for what it's worth.
Yeah. That's if you don't weigh in, you don't wrestle. So you gotta get the piece of paper that says you can do the job you want to do, as the way our society is formed right now. So stay in school until you get your paper, and then
you have the
door.
freedom.
The door's open. Run out. Battle makeup on. I'm gonna take this class and this class, this class.
Write your own ticket. That's the thing I love about it. It's one of the best things of our profession.
Thank you for joining us, folks. The mission of Massage Tools Podcast is to inspire. So help us inspire you. Ask questions, leave suggestions in the comments section. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see more content, please click that subscribe button, turn on your notifications, and hey, check out these links for other videos here.